I'm Diane Brady. I am here with Sarah Goa, who is the former general partner at Greylock and is now the founding partner at Conviction. You're starting your own fund.
I am. I'm so excited, Diane.
So, okay, what inspired that?
I guess Greylock is an entrepreneurial culture. I have always wanted to start my own fund. My parents are entrepreneurs. And this time in cycle, even though I think it's very easy to look at the macro and say, you know, it's a scary time, it's a risky time, how much capital is available to funds or startups, we're at a huge time of transition, so I think it's actually a huge opportunity.
So where do you see the opportunities? I know you can't talk much about the fundraising, I'm assuming a weekend, but what's your investment thesis in terms of what will Conviction be looking at?
I am fundamentally an early stage investor, so I think that the people who choose to build companies in this macro, they really believe, right? They're committed to taking the risk. And so I'm just excited about the timing to begin with. In terms of transition, like we spent a decade reaping the benefits of a shift to the cloud and to mobile for consumer.
Yeah.
And so a lot of people think we're kind of end of cycle, but if you look at the fundamental things that are happening in technology, one level down, enabling technologies like AI and crypto, I think I'm going to spend a lot of effort in looking for great entrepreneurs. And then I know this is an interest of yours, but I think it's really difficult to overstate the change in how companies are organized and, like, you know, to use the buzzword, the future of work, right? And so I've made a number of investments over time in enabling remote teams, enabling digital work, building relationships remotely, which is really hard. Companies like Mystery and Remotion and Figma, and I'm going to continue to do that.
So I'm curious how you source, I don't say source talent's the wrong term, but there are so many people want to get your attention, want to get your money. How do you choose the winning investments that you've had? Do you invest in the founder? Is that sort of a classic VC strategy?
Yeah,
Give me a sense as to what you think has been the secret sauce for you.
So we're still working on the secret sauce, but you know, I had the great privilege to work at Greylock for 9 years. And I think that there are different orientations of how you practice venture. And I think the two basic ones are, for early stage venture, are market first and founder first, right? And I think I'm probably a little bit more oriented to founder first, with strong opinions on sort of what the secular changes are. But I think this is an advantage for somebody who wants to write first checks. Like, and it's not necessarily about pedigree, right? It's not just second-time founders or people who were, you know, SVPs of product and engineering or presidents at some important startup. It's really about sort of core entrepreneurial characteristics and then, like, deeply understanding problems. And it's one of the things that you say a lot of people want to get an investor's attention. That's definitely true, but one of the parts of the job that I actually love and remains sort of quite, I don't know, artisanal, personal, inefficient, is just meeting with people, right? And seeing if we can see greatness in them. And so I just spend a lot of time in person.
Do you have any theories? You know, continues to be a lot of discussion around the diversity of who gets the money, Silicon Valley or elsewhere. What has been your approach? Because we do tend to recognize excellence in a form that sometimes reminds us of ourselves. Do you think that the position that you come to has allowed you a broader purview of who you invest in?
I am personally very privileged to work with a number of female founders and CEOs, and with, you know, Hispanic founders and people who are less represented in the entrepreneurial community to date. I'd say we've also, you know, and I'm glad to have been a part of this, hired, and Greylock will continue to hire and foster talent that is more diverse, because I do think all of these things are obviously interrelated, right? You know, I described how personal the decision to invest in an entrepreneur for the long term is. And if you don't have people who have some cultural resonance, personal connection, networks in common with more diverse entrepreneurs, you will not invest in them, right? And so I'd say, like, it's important to me personally. I'm following in the footsteps of, you know, many people who, like Eileen and the All Raise team, have done enormous things for the industry. I'd like to think that, you know, I'm looking for entrepreneurs that I think can be great. I think many of those entrepreneurs are, you know, are going to be women and people of color.
Do you think the genotype changes in an environment like this because we're in a period now where a lot of people have never known anything but zero interest rates? they've essentially had a bull market for so long. Now we're entering a different stage, as you said, both from a technological point of view, but kind of an economic reality point of view.
Yeah.
Does that change the kind of founder that you look for?
I think that the selection set of who's creating companies changes, right? And so in a period of time where capital is very cheap and the risk profile of it not working is essentially zero. If you're like, you're a
what the heck?
You're a mid-level engineer at Uber and you do a YC company and it doesn't work out, like, guess what? You can go to Google or Facebook or many other companies or another startup. I think that it is going to be a more considered decision for entrepreneurs to take the leap, and investors can certainly like enable that and support that and be catalysts, but I think a lot of the selection is being done for me. And to some degree, like obviously I want there to be available capital and consumers and businesses spending, but in a positive way, right? Because the entrepreneurs who look at this environment and they say like, I have to do it anyway because the opportunity is too good or because I believe and because I can convince people to come and join my team, like that's a huge positive signal.
Okay, so give us some sense as to, you mentioned future of work and such. You talked about crypto. Explain that in the context of the current environment, because of course that's now got this, oh my gosh, I lost a lot of money aura to it.
Yes.
How are you thinking about crypto?
Fundamentally, I've spent a lot of time as an investor in sort of more the infrastructure level, the enabling technologies so think developer tools and security. A lot of the things I'm interested in crypto are either core infrastructure, so companies like 0x and Magic Eden, and you are totally right that crypto is facing a winter, and I think it will be a much more severe winter than the rest of the macroeconomy. And I think that's actually a very good thing, right? Because it is no secret that there's a huge amount of
winter can be frozen, or a lot of things can die in winter. I'm not quite sure what winter might end up meaning in this context.
I think it will be both, and I think a lot of things dying, and a lot of the interest has been driven by speculation, by scammers and fraud, and just the ease of making money when there's so much interest that is uneducated, and I think regulation is coming as well. I think the cleaning out of the ecosystem of a lot of that speculative interest is very good for the ecosystem, because I think the principles of more ownership of your data, of more ownership of internet platforms, of potentially programmatic finance that is cross-border, like all of those are actually very interesting ideas. And so for a long-term investor, I'd say to have less of the noise that drives in harm to retail investors, instability in the environment, and more focus on sort of the core principles and value creation that isn't just I can get rich tomorrow is a very good thing.
So because you invest in early stage, what are the underappreciated skill sets that you've seen for people who scale up? Because that's always the big challenge, is to get to that next level. Are there certain pieces of advice that you give, or is there certain kind of infrastructure that you like to see people build immediately around themselves?
One of the things that I've just been amazed by is the growth curve of entrepreneurs who create platform companies. One example would be Dylan Field, who started a design software company called Figma. Figma is a public scale company today. When Greylock did the Series A, Dylan was a 20 or 21-year-old Brown dropout with interesting internship experiences and great mentors, and very little knowledge, obviously, of the commercial world at that point. And he and Evan Wallace, who are the co-founders of Figma, they're technologists with an insight, but the thing that I've seen in Dylan that has just been extraordinary, that I look for in other entrepreneurs, is the sort of constant sort of searching for input on everything that he has to go learn, right? And then I think if you combine that with this desire for the company, a sort of unapologetic desire for the company to be great and to employ the best people and to do things the best way from first principles, it's actually really uncommon, right? And as an investor, it's extraordinary because I can give some tiny amount of advice to our companies, tribal knowledge, my own experiences, But if you can enable somebody who wants to learn and has really high work ethic and is ambitious and then keeps the bar really high for their own team's performance, like all you have to do is give them the resources, right? Which is amazing.
And what do you think's the underappreciated skill set in a VC? You're now starting your own firm, which I think is again an incredible leap of both confidence, but also, you know, in your acumen and what you've learned at Greylock, et cetera. A lot of people can dispense money, especially when money's cheap. What do the great ones do?
So I have had the privilege of working with some really extraordinary investors at Greylock, and what I've learned is they're all different, right? And I'm, you know, I've got some concepts of my own style, but if I look at entrepreneurs turned investors that I've been lucky to work with, like Ashim Chandna has been amazing at enterprise infrastructure and security. He has a very strong strike zone.
So the industry knowledge?
It's deep domain knowledge,
yep.
And then both the product and the go-to-market, and then hands-on work with entrepreneurs. I think if you look at, for example, my partners, like my former partners, Reid Hoffman or David Z, they're looking for like different characteristics in entrepreneurs, right? A strong understanding of network effects, like really creative ideas and iteration speed for that next big consumer thing, right? Be it Nextdoor or Discord or Airbnb, and like an open-mindedness to those types of ideas. And so like, I think a very humbling thing about venture is it's very hard to be good consistently, and people do it in very different ways. Like if I think about the core investor characteristics that I'm looking for, and I am hiring for anybody who sees this, you know, there's some base level of intelligence that I think is important for many jobs. Then there's work ethic, like just the hustle of, you have to love entrepreneurship, and I think that also comes out in empathy, and like many parts of investing, like it should be a hard job to create billions of dollars of returns, right? And so part of it is a grind. And I think the last piece is really like the curiosity to, like the intellectual curiosity and judgment commercially that's quite different from just like straight smarts.
Any reason why you picked conviction? That seems to me suggest a certain mindset or mission.
Yeah, so a part of it is, you know, communicating the ability to write first checks. And, you know, I'm a very tribal person, like loyalty to individuals and like the stories of some of these great ideas and companies, some things they work immediately and some things it's just not obvious for a long time, right? And so for me, I think part of what I endeavor to give to entrepreneurs is conviction around them and around ideas, and especially for, you know, the sort of more bear market that we're experiencing, I think that will be uncommon.
Great. Well, Sarah, good luck.
Thank you so much, Diane.
And more to come.